zu Teil 3 von Oikocredit Live, unserer Veranstaltungsreihe. Sehr schön, dass so viele heute dabei sind. 60 Teilnehmende sind es jetzt gerade. Mein Name ist Corinna Groß. Ich bin Referentin für Öffentlichkeitsarbeit im Oikocredit-Förderkreis Baden-Württemberg. Ich sitze heute hier in Stuttgart und freue mich sehr, dass ich die heutigen Rednerinnen und also die heutigen Präsentatoren vorstellen darf. Und zwar, ja, sie sind seit über 10 Jahren für Oikocredit in der Welt unterwegs. Sie sind sozusagen die Augen von uns vor Ort. Viele von Ihnen kennen wahrscheinlich Ihre wunderschönen Bilder, die wir immer in unseren Broschüren und Online-Auftritten verwenden. Wir haben heute die Ehre, Pauline und Wim Opmeer zu Gast zu haben, die Opmeer Reports, wie sie sich nennen. Und ja, vor 10 Jahren haben die beiden ihre Jobs als Architektin und Manager an den Nagel gehängt und widmen sich seither ihrer Leidenschaft, dem Fotografieren. Und sie haben auch schon hunderte Oikocredit-Partner fotografiert und die Kundinnen von unseren Oikocredit-Partnern vor Ort. Ich selbst habe die beiden Anfang des Jahres in Ghana kennengelernt bei unserer Studienreise und habe ihnen auch abends, wenn wir zusammensaßen, tausende Fragen gestellt, weil ich es einfach total spannend finde, wie die beiden arbeiten und wie sie unterwegs sind. Und deswegen freue ich mich jetzt total, dass die beiden da sind und uns ein bisschen was aus ihrem Berufsalltag erzählen. Ich hoffe, wir sehen viele schöne Bilder. Und ich sage jetzt noch ein paar technische Dinge. Wenn die beiden jetzt gleich loslegen, werden sie Englisch sprechen. Das heißt, wenn Sie eine Übersetzung gerne hätten, dann dürfen Sie jetzt den Kanal unten wechseln. Und zwar ist da dieser kleine Globus oder diese kleine Weltkugel unten, da steht Dolmetschen drunter. Wenn Sie da drauf drücken, können Sie den deutschen Kanal auswählen und bekommen dann gleich eine Übersetzung. Wenn Sie Fragen haben während des Vortrags, können Sie diese jederzeit in den Chat schreiben. Wir werden die sammeln und hinterher gibt es Zeit, alle zu beantworten. Und dann, ja, herzlich willkommen, Pauline und Wim Opmeer.
Ja. Danke, Corinna. Danke.
Herzlich willkommen.
Ups.
Ja.
Good evening. We are Pauline and Wim.
Hello.
Nice to have this big audience from Germany. Since 2010, we work together as Opmeer Reports, like Corinna already mentioned. The reason why we started this type of work is that we saw so many negative stories in the press, which of course are true, but about development cooperation. And of course they're true, but we figured there would also be positive stories to tell and show. So, we started to visit all kinds of projects. We wanted to visualize the impact of sustainable development cooperation through personal stories, because we are convinced that positive personal stories will involve possible investors. And this way we want to contribute to a world in which prosperity is shared equally. Oikocredit was our first customer, and by now we have visited around 184 projects for Oikocredit, projects, partners, microfinance organizations, cooperatives. And we're not only working for Oikocredit, we have around 15 customers in the Netherlands and Belgium. And on the map you see all the locations, more or less, that we have visited for, or all the countries we have visited for all our customers. And by combining all the assignments, we hope to, well, we want to earn a living, and we want to provide our customers with very reasonable rates.
In Africa and Latin America, we travel with our own 4x4 camper, as you can see on the picture. And in Asia, it's very complicated. So we use their airplanes, taxis, Ubers, etc. And we don't have a traditional relationship, We live together 7 days a week, and yes, 24 hours a day.
All of them.
All of them. So for us, here the COVID-19 period is quite common for us. We live together, and
we are used to being stuck together.
So
not here, but everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the main difference, that we are stuck here and not there. But what I said, we have not a traditional relationship, but because when the car is damaged or there is something wrong, then Pauline gets the tools and she tried to fix the car. And in the meantime, I'll do the cooking. And I can say I can do very good cooking.
Better than my fixing in the car.
On the other hand, we have a very traditional relationship, because I normally drive the car and Pauline navigates, and which you can see. She had promised me a fine road, and you can see where we ended up in the mud. But it was a nice photo, and she made it. So thank you. Work-wise, we are both shooting photos and video, and Pauline writes and I edit the videos.
So the first webinar we did was in the Netherlands, when we also were telling this story more or less. And someone asked whether we as people from Europe can tell a true story about developing countries. Well, first of all, we think that there are several stories to tell, and they are all true. So for example, if you look at the photos here on the top left, you see Addis Ababa, which is representative of Africa in its rather developing stage. But if you look on the right of that photo, you see poverty in South Africa's mining community, and that's also a true story. This was not for Oikocredit, by the way, it's for another client. On the right, on the downside, you see the charcoal along the road in Zambia. And we see trees disappearing more and more every year. And not only in Zambia, unfortunately, so that's yet another story. And on the left side, underneath, you see a beautiful house of a successful client who is also an architect. So he's not just a farmer, but he has also built his own house with the profit he has made from the loans. So all these stories are true stories in countries we visit.
Apart from that, we do not tell the complex story of a country or poverty reduction in general. We tell the personal stories to show the impact of Oikocredit's work. We have local guidance, so the partners who are familiar with the end customers, they accompany us, and they take care of the consent forms. So the people which we have photographed sign a consent form, so that they know for sure that the photos are only used by Oikocredit.
When we started in 2010, we thought we would take a lot of time at every visit, so we could take pictures of what happened spontaneously without directing people to do things just for the photo. Well, that was a nice idea, but the reality is somewhat different. Here you see how we work, well, physically more or less. And we will explain the challenges that direct a bit how we have to work in reality in next slides. So, for example, if we arrive somewhere, this is a special event for people. They're not used to having foreign guests, and they're not used to getting their photos taken. So instead of disappearing in the background like we thought we could do, we have a lot of contact with them, which of course is beautiful. In this case, Brigida, she's the loan group president. When we arrived, she started washing her hair, because she wanted to look good in the photos. And we need to respect that. We can say that they have to wear their old clothes that they usually wear during their work, but then they wouldn't feel comfortable. So we need to take that into account as well. So then when we took one of the photos of her at work, this is one of them. This is in the kitchen where she is not only cooking, but she also is looking after guinea pigs. And that's a delicacy in Peru. So, and therefore part of her business.
It tastes like chicken and it's a lot of work to eat, but at the end it's
little meat.
Little meat, so it's better to eat chicken.
Yeah. Anyway, so, well, of course, she's not wearing her regular outfit here. But the funny thing is that the hat, which looks most spectacular to us, is actually a daily part of her wardrobe. So she won't wear it in the kitchen when she's cooking, but she will wear it when she goes out to buy groceries.
And very often happens when we make photos of the end clients, then they prepare themselves and then we make one photo and they say, okay, are we ready now? So we always have to say, no, please, we have to make a lot of pictures more, because one is not most of the time not enough. No. Partners and end customers do not always understand what we are doing. For example, when we visited this cooperative in Guatemala, Pauline explained for 45 minutes in perfect Spanish to the board that we came to portray people and not crops, because Oikocredit asked us to make photos of people. So after 2 hours of driving in a very old bus with the entire board, we arrived at this field with beautiful green beans, but the farmer, we couldn't find him. And so Pauline started again talking to the board, and to solve the issue, we did our good cop, bad cop routine. And at the end, in the Q&As, you can ask Pauline who is the good cop, and you can ask me who's the bad cop.
Well, that's giving it away, kind of.
Fortunately, after a walk of 1 hour over the mountains, in which we got lost a few times, we found Juan. He is a member of the cooperative for more than 15 years. And Juan has worked in the USA, so he even spoke English, and he gave us a very good quote. The cooperative gives us credit so that we can sow green beans. Without the loan, we would have to look for a job elsewhere in Guatemala, and we would not be able to have our own farm here. So at the end, we were happy with the photo, and also was Oikocredit, because these photos of Juan we have seen quite regularly, frequently in all the magazines. And sometimes this is all you can do after a journey of 2 hours. His name is Boris, no kidding, it was in Kyrgyzstan. He was very friendly, but the only thing he could show us was a field with very little small plants. And now at the moment we forgot which plant it was, but
then we knew.
But now we forgot. But I think his smile, he was lovely. Yeah.
Another thing is when we visit, we are with the two of us, but we are not the only ones talking with the end clients, because sometimes the partner has a big representation. Sometimes the cooperative, like with the board and the beans we visited, sometimes it's even 15 people. And sometimes the whole village is there watching what we do, because for them it's quite unusual. So here, for example, in Honduras, we visited a coffee cooperative, and then all the kids and parents came to see us make the video. I don't know if you can see me in the middle interviewing the guy with the red shirt. And if everybody's around and you need to ask some questions and you need quiet surroundings in Latin America, that's, well, sort of a challenge.
But sometimes it's very handy that there are a lot of neighbors around, because very often we have asked an end beneficiary, how much is your loan? And then she looks a little bit to the neighbors, and then the neighbors shout, $50, $50. So it's most of the time it's
yeah, in these small communities, they know about each other, and especially with the older women, then they can help.
And it's not a secret that they have a loan.
It's not a secret. No,
no.
They're not ashamed of, or they're not secretive about it.
No, it's not like in the Netherlands. Then you don't say out loud that you have a loan, but here it's quite normal. Yeah. Many times things get lost in translation. We are seldom accompanied by professional translators, which means that sometimes an end client gives an answer of 2 minutes and our appointed translator says, she says it's good. Oh, okay. We then need to explain that we might like to hear the entire answer. And for example, here in India, we visited clients of a solar panel company in India, and our guide spoke poor English and with a very big Indian accent. But with a little patience, we managed to understand that the solar-powered water pump for irrigation that saves the end clients money, as opposed to the diesel-powered generator they used before. Their yield has improved and they can use the water for the household. And in the end, we could even make this photo of the woman looking at us. She is not allowed to show her face to the older men of the community, but after explaining what we wanted, she could show her face to us because she thought, I don't think we will see them again. And maybe we had a friendly smile to her. Maybe.
So like we explained before, our idea was to take a lot of time to make a natural photo or video report. So things can happen spontaneously. We can work with the best light, which is the early morning or at the end of the afternoon. The reality is that it often takes a lot of time to get somewhere. In this case, we had to visit alpaca shepherds at 5,000 meters altitude, and it took us 5 hours to get there on a rough mountain road and 5 hours to get back. So I was stuck in the back, like you see here, with 3 other people. One is stuck behind the guy with the blue jacket. And Wim was folded in the front seat because of his long legs.
But I think of the trip of 10 hours, I think you had 8 hours, your eyes were closed because it was so steep and so scary.
So like I said, Wim was folded in the front seat, and even he had little space because he had all the equipment in his lab. So once we arrive after 5 hours, we have to get to work quickly because otherwise we won't have enough time. And of course, we don't arrive at the best time when it comes to the light, but we're used to that, so it's not a big issue. We just have to deal with it. And but we do have to earn the trust of the shepherd quickly. And meanwhile, Wim needs to combine stretching his gorgeous body in a Pilates move, like you see here, and in the same time make photos. So, well, then it works.
And the Dutch are usually very direct, which we are too. And when we don't have much time, we like to get to work immediately. But that's not always possible, because first our host needs to get to know us a little. And of course, they want to receive us hospital with coffee, tea, and often even food. And we try to speed up the process, especially when rain clouds start arriving and the time is ticking away. But we need to respect their culture as well. And sometimes that's a little bit difficult. because they take the time and we like, oh, we want to make photos. But in this case, fortunately, we were able to do the video shoot before a late lunch. And as soon as we sat down, the rain started and we started to enjoy the delicious late lunch served on banana leaves. It was very nice.
What we also wanted to do at some point was to return to end clients of Oikocredit after 4 years. 4 years is usually the time when we return in the logistics we have. So we thought it would be nice to show the progress and ask questions about the changes that the end clients were able to make. Of course, the communications department was enthusiastic about the idea, but in reality, it's a little difficult.
Could you get closer to the microphone, please? You are very low, your voice.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Wim is talking very loud, so I assume you lowered your volume. So it's not easy to always arrange the glasses then. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, my computer. Sorry. It's a bit difficult to arrange it sometimes or many times, because the partner and the end beneficiary still need to be working with Oikocredit, otherwise we can't visit them. Another thing is that the location needs to be accessible. For example, in the photo you see a coffee farmer, and the plan was to visit him again in Colombia, but we had rains before, and then the road was so bad that we couldn't go there. And once we saw the road they still thought was good enough, we understood that the road to Marco, this coffee farmer, probably had turned into a river. And then, of course, it's impossible to go there. And the third reason that it's not always possible to visit an end beneficiary again is the safety. In El Salvador, the plan was to visit a tamala baker. A tamala is a pastry. And we had seen her 4 years earlier, but the neighborhood had become much more unsafe because of the gangs. And even the loan officers couldn't go there anymore. And of course, they didn't want to jeopardize our safety. So we visited other clients when we were there.
In Paraguay, we succeeded to visit Anastasia and Modesto twice. The first time it was in 2012. They had 9 children, of which 4 daughters lived at home. They grew lemon verbena, that's a herb that's used for tea, amongst others. And this was their main crop, which was exported through the cooperative. And Anastasia also grew some fruit and vegetables that she sold on the organic market every Tuesday. And that was very successfully, we understood. When we returned in 2017, they had stopped growing sesame seeds and expanded their lemon verbena production. And they had also fences now to protect their land against animals. And of course, the family had also expanded, so they enlarged and improved their house, and they owned more cattle. 4 years ago, they had 1 calf. Now they owned 15 cows and 4 pigs. And livestock is a good way for farmers in these areas to save money. It's like a piggy bank. And the first time we visited, the cooperative had started a project to build drying floors. The second time we visited, they were finished, and here you see Anastasia spreading the lemon verbena on a fenced-in drying floor, which ensures that the chicken cannot enter it. So the chickens were a little bit less fat than the first time, but this improved hygiene makes it easier for them to comply to standards for organic certification and export.
We also exported some
because
we got a big bag of lemon verbena to go with us. So we had very nice tea for at least a few months. So, another client we managed to visit twice is Jose, a tomato farmer in Ecuador. The first time in 2013, he was a bit timid. And that might also have to do with the fact that he didn't speak Spanish, and a language barrier usually doesn't help. So in this case, the partner, the three gentlemen on the right, they translated from his language to Spanish and the other way around. He told us that he had started growing tomatoes 4 years before our visit, and at the same time became a member of the cooperative. And before he did that, he transported some materials and newspapers on a cargo bike, and he had some small temporary jobs. So he never had a fixed income. And when he became a farmer, his circumstances really improved. And when we visited in 2013, he already had a steady income. The loan that he got from the partner, he used it to build a greenhouse or even more. When we arrived, he owned 4 greenhouses and there were 15 people working there. So the loan was also beneficiary to other people. He rented the site and he dreamed of owning his own plot of land. So when we returned in 2016, we were part of the group of the study tour. So instead of us, he had a whole group of people, but it didn't seem to bother him that much. He had much more confidence, which is also always a good sign, of course. He didn't buy his own plot of land yet, but that had to do especially with the fact that his greenhouses would still last a few more years and he couldn't move them. And it would be a waste of capital to move and leave his greenhouses behind. So he waited for that moment. In the meantime, he did expand his farm with strawberries that were more profitable. And he had finished building the house that he started in 2013.
And thanks to all our experiences, we have learned to deal with almost every challenge. As a result, we managed to show the positive story according to the feedback we get. One of the things that make it possible is the fact that everyone is always very helpful. And we love our work and we want to achieve that the people we work with have a nice experience as well. So that in the end, it shows in our photos and videos the joy we had together with them. Beautiful photos helps to tell the stories. And what we have learned in 10 years is that all these stories can be viewed from many different angles. Usually there are 2 sides to a coin or even more.
So a subject that one can tell a lot of different stories about is gender equality. Because of its importance, we started our own gender equality, own gender equality project. And that was in 2016. And Oikocredit allowed us to combine our project with visiting the partners. When there was time, of course, and opportunity, but there sometimes is, so it makes a lot of sense because microfinance is an important instrument in creating or improving equality between sexes. In this case, we visited a cooperative in Nicaragua, where the women, this is a whole women's cooperative, they had a capacity building training. And we talked to some of the women, among which the purple sweater. And she told us that when she got pregnant, she married, of course, and she had to drop out of school because these women tend to get
It's not children. A good combination there.
Not a good combination, and women get children on a quite early age. After 12 years of marriage, she got a divorce, and then the cooperative had helped her to finally finish her school and even to finish high school. She loved the capacitation building training we visited and said it was so nice that they could get to work physically. It annoyed her that many women said the work was too strenuous, that it was a man's job. But despite this initial reluctance with some of the women, the group managed to build a working irrigation system, and they, and especially Maribel, was very proud of the end result. We also talked to the CEO of the cooperative, who's actually a man, but I think he's the only one. No, they have some staff, but the whole board, and the rest of them is women. But the CEO, he told us that they are training the women on self-reliance, in the meantime involving the whole family, because if you neglect the men, providing credit will only increase domestic violence in many cases. The other side of the coin is that the men also benefit from the women empowerment. And fortunately, more and more they start realizing this. So in Brazil, we visited a coffee cooperative as well. And Vania on the photo, she's the vice president of the coffee cooperative. So we had an extensive interview with her, and she was very optimistic and positive. We also talked to the president of the cooperative, who told us that previously women did not join because of the culture of the region, not because their husbands did not want them to. When the women joined, their husbands were very grateful that the women participated in the cooperative.
And in this case, the president, it was a man too.
Yeah, it was a man too.
Yeah.
Well, we talked, of course, more with Vania, and she confirmed what he said. And fortunately, we could also talk to her husband, who you see in this photo, Sebastião, and he told us that he is very proud of Vania, and he said, I strongly believe that it's different when you enter into a dialogue and pursue the same goal.
We also visited several loan groups, for example, in South Africa, where we spent 3 days with them. The big advantage of group loans is that people without much capital, who have no collateral, can get a small loan in that way. And the majority of group loan members are women, and those are very strong women, you can say. There is this romantic idea about group loans, but at the end, it's deadly serious. If you cannot pay, then you have to explain to the whole group why not and how you are going to solve it next time, because the rest of the group has to pay your share. So strict rules are needed to ensure that everyone is and remains satisfied. And one rule, for example, is that the women who are late for the meeting, they need to pay a fine. And that's a very high fine for them. Yeah, obviously. And in Tanzania, we met Arnold, and he was part of a loan group too. And he also experienced the downsides of group loans. Many times he had to pitch in for group members. Despite that, he fully agrees with the concept. And he told us, don't lighten the rules because people will run away with the money. And so I realized that a group loan is the only way to have a loan without collateral. And Arnold started his career as a teenager, I think 14 or 15 he was. And he was selling old bags on street corners, and he did that very successfully. And he promoted later on steadily to owning shops. And he became a real good entrepreneur, because finally in 2009 he became an individual member. So he bought land with the money he loaned, and he has built a restaurant, a lodge, houses, and some shops that he rents out, and he employs at the moment 20 people.
Or by now, maybe more.
Maybe more, yeah. Yeah.
Since we was a few years ago. Yeah. But not everyone's an entrepreneur like Arnold, of course. So in Rwanda, a company built a tea factory. They process the tea and offer a market to the farmers. And through cooperatives, the farmers receive training courses to improve the quality and quantity of the harvest. And Oikocredit supports the tea company and the cooperatives. And well, we have shown many photos already with cooperatives. So that's the big advantage of this model, that the widow in the photo, you see, she can focus on her crop, is gaining a better income, and is supported without being an entrepreneur herself. So that way she's also beneficiary.
And after speaking to over 800 end clients, you can fairly say that the dream almost all people have in common, that's education and a better future for their children. And I think 90% of all the end beneficiaries say that to us. Eh?
Yeah. It's not original, but it's very useful, of course.
And I think it's the same here in the Netherlands, and I think also in Germany, that parents want the best for their children, and that's a good education, so that they can have a better life than they have themselves.
For ourselves, after about learning, so our conclusions after 10 years in the field is that we learn every day. But the more we learn, the more we realize that in the end we know almost nothing. And that's our story.
Super, vielen, vielen lieben Dank, Pauline und Wim. Das war richtig spannend. Vielen, vielen Dank. Jetzt haben wir noch eine Weile Zeit, um Fragen zu beantworten. Wenn Sie eine Frage haben, dann dürfen Sie die gerne jetzt in den Chat schreiben. Wenn Sie die Frage persönlich stellen möchten, dann können Sie auch einfach Ihren Namen in den Chat schreiben und wir rufen Sie dann auf und dann können Sie sich wieder laut schalten und die Frage selber stellen. Ich frage jetzt mal meine Kollegin Maja, ob wir schon Fragen im Chat haben.
Danke, Corinna. Bisher nur eine Frage, die du stellen wolltest, sonst noch keine Frage eingegangen.
Okay, meine Frage war, I can ask in English because it's better for you to understand. My question was, how do you keep contact to all these people? How do you manage the contacts, the email addresses or phone numbers to be able to contact the people again after some time? Ich wiederhole die Frage auch nochmal auf Deutsch, falls es jetzt gerade nicht übersetzt wurde oder Sie den Kanal nicht mehr ausgewählt haben. Also meine Frage war, wie Sie den Kontakt zu den Leuten halten. Now you're muted.
Okay. We didn't want to disturb you and we wanted to, well...
Überlegen.
Yeah, well, we have a quite extensive email.
Yeah, and at the moment it's more WhatsApp with the end beneficiaries. So,
but still, we have an archive in which we store every contact or every mail we have, and in reality, after we have left the project, we usually only have some contacts if they ask us for some materials, but usually the materials are delivered to them through Oikocredit and the partner. And after that, we don't have that much contact anymore. There are some, for example, in India, we once visited a tea plantation and we have been there for almost a week. and we met the whole family. So then you have more of a personal relationship. So yeah, it's a bit like that. And usually if there's any questions or wishes by the partner, then they go to Oikocredit and Oikocredit comes to us. So.
Okay, danke schön für die Antwort. Maja, haben wir noch Fragen bekommen?
Ja, wir haben noch eine Frage von Achim Wurst. Danke, lieber Achim. Möchtest du oder möchten Sie die Frage selbst stellen oder soll ich sie vorlesen?
Alle vorlesen.
Gerne. Okay, danke. Herr Wurst schreibt, tolle Fotos. Viele der Personen sehen sehr glücklich aus. Also einmal eine tolle Arbeit für die beiden. Glückwunsch. Und die Frage ist, wie lange braucht ihr und wie macht ihr das, eine solche fröhliche, entspannte Fotoatmosphäre zu schaffen?
Well, it's sometimes the photo itself only takes a short amount of time, but I'm just looking from my right to see the photos that are passing in the loop, so I have an idea myself. Many times you're a bit longer with one person, and then it's first we interview them, so they already are getting to know us a little bit, and you can get some sort of a trust relationship. And then we say, okay, you just go about your business, and then we make some photos. And sometimes, especially farmers, they almost forget we are there because they just started working, and they started weeding and everything. And then at some point you want to do something else, you really have to say, okay, thanks, can we do something else now, because they're in their work again. So I think it also has to do with the fact that you already have spoken with them a bit, and we are not coming there with our cameras out. We first get to know a little bit of each other, and then and Wim always makes a lot of bad jokes, which are very difficult for the translators. So then, well.
Yeah, and because I think because we both make the photos and we are man and wife, so in a very short time there is a nice feeling, and we try to. I always touch them. With COVID, it will be a little bit difficult, but normally I do a lot of with my hands, and because I'm 2 meters and I have big hands and I'm a big white guy, and I always smile, and that helps, I think.
I know.
Ja.
Vielen Dank. Gibt es weitere Fragen? Sie können sich dann an der Stelle auch jetzt gerne laut schalten und selber fragen, wenn das einfacher ist.
Ja, bitte, also jeder, der möchte, vielleicht nicht durcheinander, nacheinander Fragen stellen. Im Chat sind bisher noch keine Fragen.
Wenn es gerade keine Frage gibt, habe ich nämlich noch eine. Wo ist euer Auto gerade? Where's your van at the moment?
It's in Namibia.
We hope.
And we just today booked our flight to Namibia.
With Lufthansa. We thought that would be a very
Trustworthy.
Company.
They cancelled after 3 hours. So then we booked another flight with Lufthansa. So we hope to go there in the beginning of December, and then we can, well, make sure that the car has been there for a year, so that's not a very good thing. So when we got it up and running again, we will go for South Africa, and from there to Eastern Africa to resume the work.
Super.
Darf ich was fragen?
Ja, natürlich, sehr gerne.
Also meine Kamera ist jetzt im Moment wieder gestört. Ich weiß nicht, was da los ist, aber egal. Wir haben ja jetzt gerade in Europa dieses Problem mit den 17 Millionen, glaube ich, Nerzen gehabt, ja, die getötet werden mussten. Und irgendwie habe ich intuitiv daran gedacht, als die Meerschweinchen da gezeigt wurden, die dann ja auch als Delikatesse verspeist werden, sind solche Großprojekte, solche Großzuchtbetriebe, wie wir die in Europa haben, gibt es die, sind die dort auch in, sagen wir mal, ja klar, in südamerikanischen Ländern auch vertreten wahrscheinlich, aber gibt es da auch Bestrebungen von den Leuten jetzt, die über Oikocredit finanziert werden, auch zu expandieren und so weiter? Verstehen Sie die Frage?
Most of it.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Ja.
Ja, aber das, ich weiß nicht, ist das eine Frage? Is this a question that you can answer? Not for Oikocredit, not as part for Oikocredit, but from your experience, maybe.
Yeah,
Well, we don't encounter too many huge cattle
or chicken
cattle
or
growing farms. There are parts in the world where we see the big, especially with chicken.
Chicken, yeah.
But those are usually not the clients of Oikocredit. So in the case of the guinea pigs, it's all quite small scale, and even the bigger scale is still small scale and very spacious and very ventilated, and even then it's not nowhere near what we are used to here. So that's what we really encounter up close. Whether there's also farms like we have here, that might be, but we don't visit them. So that's a bit difficult for us to say.
Okay. Dankeschön.
Bitte sehr.
Danke vielmals. Ich sehe hier noch eine Frage von Matthias Grosse, der auf Englisch fragt: Do the people who made success teach each other too? Richtet sich die Frage an die Erfahrung der Open Ears als jetzt Reporter und Fotografen, oder ist es eine Frage an Oikocredit, möchte ich hier nur kurz fragen. Herr Mattis, können Sie sich kurz...
Ich bin drin, ja.
Also,
ja, mich hat es mehr interessiert, eigentlich, was tatsächlich, ja, mehr im Sinne von Oikocredit. Ob das Wissen, was man dahin trägt in die Länder, was ja sehr schön ist, was ich jetzt auch mit sehr viel Spannung verfolgt habe jetzt gerade, ob das da auch weiter verbreitet wird, also dass man einfach sagt, dass Menschen bereit sind, dass sie ihre guten Erfahrungen noch mit anderen zu teilen auch und so weiter.
Ja, also vielleicht darf ich da ganz kurz übernehmen für Oikocredit. Ich bin vom Förderkreis Oikocredit in Österreich. Und es ist so, dass Oikocredit ja finanziert verschiedene Projekte im landwirtschaftlichen Bereich, in der finanziellen Inklusion, Mikrokredite und erneuerbare Energie. Und es gibt zum Beispiel Kreditgenossenschaften, so Art Village Bank Groups. Da geht es eben schon sehr darum, dass Menschen miteinander einen Kredit nehmen und die sehr wohl ihre Erfahrung teilen, weil es auch darum geht, hier auch die Risiken miteinander zu teilen, soweit ich weiß. Und bei Oikocredit, wenn Sie eben auch vielleicht mitbekommen haben, einmal im Jahr erscheint der Wirkungsbericht, und da geht es auch sehr stark um Bildung und eben diese Erfolgsgeschichten auch weiterzutragen von zum Beispiel einer Mikrofinanzinstitution als gutes Beispiel zu einer anderen. Das macht Oikocredit auch sehr.
Ich habe jetzt noch privat im Chat eine Frage bekommen von Peter. Er fragt in Englisch: Are you also going to visit Green Forest in Nairobi?
We visited them before in
And
2015.
Maybe Aline can answer that question. we hope
would
so.
Like to.
Yeah, we've been there before, and we have visited the factory. And now we wanted to visit the farmers who benefits from them.
But that's not up to us.
But that's not up to us.
And also not up to me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Ja, wir haben noch eine Frage von Herrn Michael Hahn, der fragt, ich lese jetzt mal auf Englisch vor. Did you get feedback what Oikocredit should or could improve? Maybe you as photographer.
Please,
sorry.
Can you repeat?
Did you get feedback from the I think from the beneficiaries you visited what Oikocredit should or could improve?
Could improve.
Yes.
There's always one sentence they always say, but it's like the farmers. The farmers always complain about the weather. The people always say, what is it?
Well, not always.
No,
Interest rate, maybe.
Interest rate, or they want a bigger loan. I think they say more that they want a bigger loan than they complain about the interest rate. Other than that, of course, they are not, the end client is not in contact with Oikocredit because they are in contact with the partner, and the partner is in contact with Oikocredit. So if we visit them, they don't have a clue as to what Oikocredit is. They have their local bank or cooperative that provides them with services and with money.
But what we most of the time encounters is that the end beneficiaries are people, because of the loan they got. They are people with plans. They see that they have a future for their children, for their family, and that's what we like the most. That every time it's always very positive. Yeah. Because they because of the loan they can start a company and make some plans for the future.
And the funny thing is that, or maybe it's even the same here, that if we, for example, ask them about the amount of their loan, or if we say how much did your profit, was your profit, or what did change in that account, they not always know, because they have financial literacy training, and that's a good thing. But they're not always keeping track of the amount of profit they make and whether it has changed in those years. So they really look to the local partner for guidance on that aspect.
Okay, thank you very much. Wir haben jetzt Frau Ines Pico, die gerne eine Frage stellen würde. Frau Pico, würden Sie Ihr Mikrofon aufdrehen? Ja. Danke.
Genau. So thank you very much for this nice talk. Hello. Perhaps you remember we were together in Peru. It was a very great time, and I had the pleasure to see you personal as you were working, and it's very special and very funny. And thank you for the talk. My question was, the first personal, how are you doing with all this COVID stuff in the Netherlands? And do you have any suggestion, or do you already thought about how COVID or all this thing will influence your future work?
We can't look that far ahead. We kind of skip doing that. Usually Wim makes a planning of 2 years. It's a rough one, but anyway, a rough schedule. He still does, but we know that we shouldn't take it too hard. We kind of figured that we lose a year with COVID when it comes to business, and for us, it's hopefully we can resume after that in the same way we did before for the clients. We guess that most of them, and we also hear that most of them need images, need videos to show what's happening. we also think that in the first period we might even be able to ask end beneficiaries or partners or whomever we send to about the impact of COVID on their lives and what they need and how are they going to continue. So in addition to the impact stories we already do. And we guess that we might have to do with a little less income the next year and maybe a year after, we don't know. But we already got some assignments for Africa, and once we're able to get there, we're still not sure. But then, then we just do our best, like we always do. So
stay safe and looking forward for many beautiful pictures.
Thanks, Ines.
Thank you.
Yes, we have one more question. Tina Timer did the translation, so I can maybe read it out in English. Andreas also asked about the COVID-19 situation.
Mm-hmm.
Have you already met end clients whose existence is threatened by the COVID-19 restrictions?
No, we came back in March, end of March, beginning of April. And after that, we have been stuck here. So we haven't been able to visit any clients anymore.
No, only some Zoom contact. Those were COVID-19 approved.
And not with end beneficiaries.
Ja.
So, ja.
Okay, hat noch irgendjemand eine Frage? Wir hätten noch Zeit für eine Frage. Wenn dem nicht